The sleek diplomatic vessel of the Galactic Concord descended through Earth's atmosphere, its arrival marking humanity's first official contact with alien civilization. Commander Alan Wright stood at the spaceport, straightening his uniform one last time, as the ship settled on the landing pad with a soft hiss. Nervous, Lieutenant Olivia Winters asked beside him. Alan nodded slightly. First impression for our entire species. No pressure. The landing ramp extended from the vessel, and the Earth delegation held their breath. The aliens that emerged first were humanoid, but covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors with their movements. Behind them came representatives from 7 other species, some insectoid, others vaguely reptilian, and one that appeared to be composed mostly of crystalline structures. Last to exit was a massive, heavily muscled being that towered over everyone else. Nearly 9 feet tall with gray-ridged skin and 4 powerful arms, the creature moved with surprising grace despite its bulk. Warlord Drax of the Craxian territories, whispered the diplomat next to Alan. Their species controls the largest military force in the Concord. The initial meetings went smoothly. Translators converted the various languages, and the aliens seemed genuinely interested in Earth culture and history. Alan and Olivia led the tour of the facility, explaining human achievements and answering countless questions about Earth. During the banquet that evening, Alan noticed Warlord Drax watching the human security personnel with what appeared to be amusement. The massive alien approached him, his translator device emitting a deep rumbling voice. "Your warriors are small," Drax observed, gesturing toward a female guard. "This one cannot weigh more than a Craxian child." Alan smiled diplomatically. "We value training and technology over physical size." The warlord made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. Against a Vorn berserker or a Craxian soldier, what good is training when your bones snap so easily? The comment drew chuckles from several other alien representatives. Olivia stepped forward, maintaining her composure despite the obvious insult. "We've survived on a planet with predators larger and stronger than us for millennia," she said calmly. "We adapt." Drax seemed unimpressed. "Adaptation is good for survival, not combat. Your soft bodies and fragile physique make you unsuitable for real warfare." The conversation shifted to other topics, but the dismissive attitude toward human physical capabilities continued throughout the diplomatic meetings. Despite this, Earth was formally invited to join the Galactic Concord, gaining access to advanced technology and interstellar travel. Over the next few months, humanity established colonies on nearby systems and integrated into galactic society. Alan was promoted to oversee military coordination with Concord forces, while Olivia became an ambassador to the Concord's central worlds. 5 years after first contact, Alan received an urgent transmission from Concord headquarters. The aggressive Vorn Empire, long contained at the edges of Concord space, had destroyed 3 outposts and captured a strategic waypoint. Intelligence suggested Earth might be in their expansion path. "The Concord is mobilizing," Admiral Susan Parker told him during their secure call. "They've requested Earth contribute forces." "The same forces they've been mocking since first contact?" Alan asked. Susan nodded grimly. "Apparently, the Vorn don't discriminate in who they conquer." Drax himself requested human troops, though he didn't sound enthusiastic about it. "What's our response?" "We're sending the U.S. Defender and 5 companies of Marines. It's not much by their standards, but it's what we can spare." Alan looked at the tactical display showing Vorn movement toward human space. "Let's hope it's enough. Something tells me we're about to find out if humanity belongs in this galaxy after all." As the first human ships prepared for departure, no one yet realized that the coming conflict would forever change how the galaxy viewed the creatures from Earth. Captain Samantha Bell stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defender, watching stars streak by as the ship traveled through hyperspace. 5 years since first contact, and now humanity faced its first interstellar war. The Vorn Empire had declared war on the Galactic Concord 3 days ago, and Earth's small fleet had been called to join the Allied forces. "Captain, we're receiving an update from Concord Command," reported Communications Officer Ryan Peters. Samantha nodded. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered to life, showing the massive form of Warlord Drax. His expression was difficult to read on his alien face, but his tone conveyed clear annoyance. "Captain Bell, your ship will rendezvous with the main fleet at coordinates 37 to 2491. You will be assigned to the 3rd Defensive Line." "Third line?" Samantha questioned. "My crew is ready for frontline duty." Drax made a dismissive gesture with one of his 4 arms. "The Vorn are not like the simulated enemies you train against. They are ruthless warriors who would tear through your soft-bodied soldiers in minutes. The 3rd line is appropriate for your capabilities." The transmission ended before Samantha could respond. She clenched her jaw, then turned to her crew. "Seems our allies still don't think much of us," she said. In the ship's training bay, Sergeant Frank Miller watched his squad practice combat maneuvers. A 20-year veteran of Earth's Special Forces, Frank had been selected to lead one of the Marine units aboard the Defender. "Faster, Martinez. The Vorn won't wait for you to catch your breath," he called as Private Carlos Martinez completed the obstacle course. Lieutenant Noah Carter approached, holding a tablet with new information. "Just got the briefing on Vorn combat tactics," he said. "They rely heavily on brute force and overwhelming numbers. Their soldiers stand over 7 feet tall and have natural armor plating." Frank studied the images. "Reminds me of fighting insurgents in the mountains. We were outgunned, but we adapted." "The aliens don't think we can adapt to this," Noah replied. "The Craxians have placed all human forces in reserve positions." Frank smiled slightly. "Then they'll have a perfect view when we prove them wrong." 3 days later, the Defender arrived at the rendezvous point. Through the viewports, the crew could see hundreds of alien vessels, the combined might of the Concorde. The human ship seemed tiny by comparison. During the command briefing, representatives from 12 species gathered to discuss strategy. Samantha and Noah represented humanity, standing notably shorter than most others in the room. "The Vorn fleet approaches from the Cygnus sector," announced Admiral Zortak, a tall insectoid being. "Their numbers are greater than anticipated." Warlord Drax pointed to positions on the holographic map. "The Craxian battle cruisers will form the vanguard. Zortak's ships will protect our flanks. The Eridani will provide air support." "And the human forces?" Samantha asked. Drax barely glanced at her. "You will remain here." He indicated a position far behind the main battle lines. "Protect the medical ships and supply lines." Noah stepped forward. "Sir, we've analyzed the Vorn attack patterns. Their tactics leave gaps we could exploit with smaller, faster ships like ours." Several alien commanders exchanged glances. A reptilian officer made a sound like a hiss. "Your species has never fought in space before. This is not the time for experiments." Noah persisted. "We've developed some tactical innovations combining our combat experience with your technology." "Enough," Drax interrupted. "The battle plan is set. Return to your positions." As they left the briefing, Samantha's communicator beeped with an incoming message from Earth Command. The text was brief. "Authorization granted for Operation Swift Strike if primary defense fails. Good hunting." Frank Miller saw the message over her shoulder and nodded slowly. "They may not believe in us yet, Captain, but they will." "Soon enough, Sergeant," Samantha replied. Soon enough. The Battle of Centauri Drift began with a terrible roar as the Vorn Armada emerged from hyperspace. Their ships, dark and angular with crimson energy signatures, outnumbered the Concorde fleet almost 2-1. Captain Samantha Bell watched from the U.S. Defender's Bridge as the initial exchanges went poorly for the Allied forces. "The Craxian front line is taking heavy damage," reported Officer Peters. 3 of their battle cruisers are already disabled. Samantha gripped the edge of her command chair. "Move us to support position Alpha. Prepare all weapons systems." On the main view screen, She could see the Concorde's carefully planned formation breaking apart under the Vorn onslaught. The alien warriors fought with a ferocity that seemed to surprise even the battle-hardened Craxians. "Concorde Command is signaling a retreat to secondary positions," said Peters. "Captain," interrupted Lieutenant Noah Carter, "a Vorn destroyer broke through. It's heading for the medical ships." Samantha didn't hesitate. "Intercept course. Full speed." The Defender shot forward, moving faster than the larger alien vessels. They positioned themselves between the approaching Vorn ship and the vulnerable medical frigates. "They're launching boarding pods," shouted the tactical officer. "Evasive maneuvers," Samantha ordered, but 2 of the pods still struck the hull with bone-jarring impacts. In the ship's main corridor, Sergeant Frank Miller and his Marines readied their weapons as the boarding pods began cutting through the hull. "Remember your training," Frank said calmly. "They're bigger, but we're faster. Use the environment." The hull breached with a spray of sparks and hissing air. Massive Vorn warriors poured through, 8-foot-tall creatures with chitinous armor and 4 arms, each wielding wicked-looking blades. The corridor erupted in weapons fire. The first wave of Vorn charged forward, seemingly oblivious to injuries that would have stopped most beings. 3 Marines went down in the initial clash. "Fall back to choke point Bravo," Frank ordered. His squad retreated in perfect order, laying down covering fire as they moved. The narrow maintenance junction gave the humans an advantage. The Vorn, with their massive frames, could only come through one at a time. Frank's team picked them off methodically. "They're trying to flank us through the ventilation system," reported Private Martinez, checking his motion tracker. Frank nodded. "Parker, Wu, cover that access point." Meanwhile, on Deck C, Major Lisa Rodriguez led the counterattack against the second boarding party. Her soldiers used the ship's artificial gravity controls to create zones of increased and decreased gravity, disorienting the Vorn who had never encountered such tactics. "Now," Lisa shouted, and her team unleashed a barrage of flash grenades. The Vorn, their eyes adapted for the darkness of deep space, reeled in pain. The human Marines surged forward, using focused fire to target weak points in the alien armor. Outside the ship, the space battle continued to rage. The Defender's weapon systems targeted the Vorn destroyer's engines, disabling the larger vessel. "We've neutralized the boarders on Deck C," Major Rodriguez reported over the comm. "Sergeant Miller?" Samantha asked. "Nearly finished here, Captain," Frank responded, his voice steady despite the sounds of combat in the background. "These guys are tough, but they're predictable." On the bridge of his command ship, Warlord Drax received the battle reports with growing surprise. The human vessel had not only held its position, but had successfully repelled Vorn boarding parties, a feat that several Craxian ships had failed to accomplish. "Send me visual," he demanded. The feed showed human Marines moving with unexpected speed and coordination. Despite injuries that leaked red blood, they continued fighting with remarkable effectiveness. "Impossible," muttered a Craxian officer beside him. "Their bodies are so fragile." Drax watched as Sergeant Miller, bleeding from a gash across his forehead, led a final push that trapped the remaining Vorn in a crossfire. "Perhaps," Drax said slowly, "we have misunderstood these humans." Across the battlefield, other alien commanders were coming to the same realization. The aftermath of the Centauri Drift battle brought a newfound curiosity about human combat capabilities. In the large circular chamber of the Concorde War Council, representatives from 12 species gathered to review battle footage. The atmosphere had shifted noticeably. The dismissive attitudes toward humans were now replaced with cautious interest. Dr. Kevin Walsh, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stood before the alien commanders. Though dwarfed by the massive Craxians and the tall, willowy Eridani, his voice carried confidence as he explained what they had witnessed. "What you saw at Centauri Drift wasn't exceptional by human standards," Kevin said. "Humans evolved as persistence predators on a planet with extreme environmental variation." He displayed holographic images of Earth's diverse ecosystems. "Our species had to adapt to deserts, Arctic conditions, high mountains, and deep seas, often within a single lifetime. But your physical fragility is undeniable, interrupted a crystalline Tholian commander. Your skin tears easily. Your bones break under modest pressure. Kevin nodded. True. But consider this. When a Craxian soldier is wounded, their rigid biology forces them to prioritize healing. When humans are injured, we can compartmentalize the pain and continue functioning. Warlord Drax leaned forward. You mean to say your weakness is somehow an advantage? Not weakness. Difference, Kevin corrected. Humans don't rely solely on physical strength or natural armor. We compensate with adaptability, endurance, and pattern recognition. He showed footage of Sergeant Miller's squad during the boarding action, highlighting how they had quickly identified vulnerabilities in the Vorn attack patterns and exploited them. Remarkable, murmured the Eridani admiral. They adapted their tactics within minutes of first contact with the enemy. After the briefing, Admiral George Patterson proposed a controversial new strategy to the Council. The tall, gray-haired human stood confidently before the alien commanders. The Vorn expect us to fight conventionally, strength against strength, he explained. Instead, I propose we position human forces at key points as rapid response units. His suggestion was met with skepticism, particularly from the Craxians. Your species makes up less than 1% of our combined forces, argued a Craxian general. How can such small numbers make a difference? Because we bring something unique to the battlefield, Patterson replied. Chaos adaptation. He displayed tactical simulations showing how human units could serve as flexible elements, shifting quickly to address emerging threats, while larger alien forces maintained battle lines. The Vorn strategy relies on creating predictable responses, Patterson continued. Humans thrive in unpredictable situations. It's part of our evolutionary heritage. The debate continued for hours, with several species supporting the human proposal while others remained doubtful. Finally, Warlord Drax raised his hand for silence. I witnessed the humans fight at Centauri, he said slowly. Their methods are unorthodox, but effective. We will implement a modified version of Admiral Patterson's strategy. Meanwhile, on Earth and its colonies, production facilities worked at maximum capacity. Engineer Beth Cooper supervised the manufacturing of new equipment designed specifically to leverage human advantages in combat. The exo-assist frames don't make us as strong as a Craxian, she explained to visiting alien observers, but they enhance our natural agility and speed. Combined with our neural response times, we gain a significant edge. New weapons systems were also being developed, lighter, more adaptable configurations that could be modified in the field. The visiting aliens were particularly intrigued by how humans could switch tactics and equipment mid-battle, something their more specialized warriors struggled to do. Back at Concord headquarters, Lieutenant Noah Carter worked with alien tacticians to integrate human forces into the battle plans. Many still doubted, but the evidence from Centauri drift couldn't be ignored. The Vorn expect us to fight like Craxians or Eridani, Noah explained. They have no reference for human warfare. A holographic message arrived from Earth. The first specialized human combat units were ready for deployment. Admiral Patterson smiled as he delivered the news to the Council. The Vorn may have laughed at our soldiers' size, he said, but they've never faced anything like us before. Across the galaxy, the battle for survival was about to enter a new phase. The Midnight Black stealth shuttle slipped silently through the Vorn defensive perimeter, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to enemy sensors. Inside, Colonel Diane Powell checked her gear one final time as the craft approached the drop zone. Operation Thunderstrike, humanity's first major special forces deployment in the Galactic War, was underway. 2 minutes to insertion, the pilot announced. Diane looked at her team. 12 of Earth's finest soldiers, each selected for their exceptional skills and adaptability. Jack Martinez, the demolitions expert, was securing his explosive charges. Kelly Wilson, their sniper, calibrated her rifle's scope for the planet's unique atmospheric conditions. Remember, Diane said, our mission is to disrupt the Vorn command structure before the main assault. We hit their communication hub, plant the tracking beacons, and extract before they know what happened. The shuttle touched down in a small clearing surrounded by the massive violet vegetation of planet Tartarus V. The team moved out silently, their adaptive camouflage blending perfectly with the alien terrain. Movement ahead, whispered Kelly through the comm. Vorn patrol, 4 warriors. The hulking Vorn soldiers moved with surprising grace despite their 8-foot frames and heavy armor. Their 4 eyes continuously scanned the surroundings, specialized for detecting movement. Diane signaled her team to freeze. They remained perfectly still as the patrol passed less than 10 feet away. The Vorn, for all their physical might, had never evolved to hunt prey that could remain motionless, a weakness the humans exploited perfectly. Once clear, the team continued toward the Vorn command base. Unlike the heavily armed aliens, the humans carried minimal equipment, prioritizing speed and stealth over firepower. Base perimeter in sight, reported Sergeant Eric Young, the team's scout. Security looks heavier than intelligence suggested. Diane studied the compound through her binoculars. Change of plans. We'll use the ventilation system instead of the service entrance. What followed was a masterclass in human infiltration tactics. Kelly positioned herself on a ridge overlooking the base, providing overwatch while Jack created a distraction on the opposite side. The rest of the team located a maintenance access point and slipped inside. The interior of the Vorn base was hot and humid, uncomfortable for humans, but perfect for the reptilian Vorn. The team moved through narrow maintenance tunnels that the larger aliens rarely used. This way to the command center, whispered Lieutenant Ben Harris, checking the holographic map. We'll have to cross that open area. Diane nodded. Wait for my signal. She activated her neural implant, accelerating her perception time. Another uniquely human advantage. The world seemed to slow around her as she analyzed patrol patterns and security cameras. She identified a 3-second window when they could cross unseen. Now, she ordered, and the team sprinted across. Inside the communication hub, Jack quickly attached specialized disruptors to the Vorn equipment. These devices would send false information to Vorn ships during the upcoming battle, creating confusion in their ranks. Planting tracking beacons, reported Specialist Rita Coleman as she inserted microscopic devices into the Vorn commander's personal items. Suddenly, an alarm blared. We've been detected, Eric warned. Complete the mission, Diane ordered calmly. Extraction Plan Bravo. A massive Vorn warrior appeared in the doorway, roaring in rage. It launched itself toward Rita, who narrowly dodged the attack. Jack fired his weapon, the specialized rounds penetrating the weak points in the alien's armor. More Vorn converged on their position. The humans split into predetermined escape teams, using the base's complex layout against their pursuers. Diane and Ben found themselves cornered in a storage area, facing 3 Vorn warriors. Stun grenades, Diane ordered. They deployed the devices, temporarily disorienting the Vorn with frequencies calibrated specifically for their sensory organs. Despite careful planning, not everything went smoothly. During extraction, Eric was struck by Vorn fire, the impact shattering his left leg. Without hesitation, he injected a combat stimulant and continued moving, displaying the remarkable pain tolerance that had so surprised their alien allies. All objectives completed, Diane reported as the team regrouped at the extraction point. Thunderstrike is a success. As the stealth shuttle lifted off, the human team had accomplished something the Concorde thought impossible, infiltrating the most secure Vorn installation in the sector and escaping with vital intelligence. The decisive battle at Orion Nebula began with the Vorn fleet surging forward in overwhelming numbers. Their ships, nearly twice as many as the Concorde forces, formed an intimidating wall of destructive power. The nebula's swirling gases cast everything in an eerie blue glow, occasional electrical discharges creating flashes like distant lightning. Captain Samantha Bell sat tense in her command chair aboard the U.S. Defender. Status report. Vorn main fleet approaching from Vector 227, responded Officer Peters. Their formation suggests they're concentrating force against the Craxian center line. Samantha nodded. Just as we predicted. Signal the flanking units to prepare for Operation Pincer. The battle unfolded rapidly. The Vorn, emboldened by their superior numbers, pressed their advantage against the Concorde center. What they didn't realize was that this had been anticipated. The human tactical advisors had recognized the pattern from Earth's historical battles. On the planet below, Sergeant Frank Miller led his squad through the ruins of a Concorde outpost. Their mission was to secure a vital sensor array that would give the fleet targeting data through the nebula's interference. "Contact front," shouted Private Martinez as 3 Vorn warriors emerged from behind a collapsed wall. The squad took cover as energy weapons fire tore through the air around them. The Vorn advanced relentlessly, their massive frames absorbing shots that would have dropped a human instantly. "Flanking maneuver now," Frank ordered. Half his team provided covering fire while the others circled around using the ruins for concealment. The firefight intensified. A blast caught Private Wilson in the shoulder, spinning him around. Despite the serious injury, he rolled to new cover and continued firing with his good arm. "We're cut off from extraction," reported Corporal Laura Hayes after checking their tactical map. "Vorn reinforcements have landed between us and the pickup zone." Frank assessed their situation grimly. His team was surrounded, outnumbered, and several were injured. By all conventional military wisdom, they should surrender or retreat. "We're completing the mission," he said firmly. "New plan. We're going through them." In space, the battle had reached its critical phase. The U.S. Defender found itself facing a Vorn dreadnought 3 times its size. Captain Bell studied the enemy vessel's movement patterns. "Their turning radius is limited by their ship's mass," she noted. "Helm, prepare for maneuver Sigma." "Captain," the pilot objected, "that maneuver will put us through gravitational forces exceeding safe limits." "Our limits," Samantha corrected, "not the ship's. Do it." The Defender suddenly accelerated toward the nebula's densest region, then executed a tight spiraling turn that would have crushed most alien species under the G-forces. Inside the ship, the human crew endured the punishing forces through a combination of specialized training and their unique physiology. The maneuver placed them perfectly behind the Vorn dreadnought's vulnerable engine section. "Fire everything," ordered Samantha, her voice strained but steady. On the surface, Frank's squad was engaged in brutal close-quarters combat. A massive Vorn commander had cornered Frank and 2 of his Marines in what remained of the outpost's command center. The alien stood nearly 9 feet tall, its 4 arms wielding separate weapons. Frank had been wounded twice, a deep gash across his chest and a burned leg from an energy weapon. By all rights, he should have been incapacitated. Instead, he circled the Vorn warrior, drawing its attention while his team moved into position. "Now," he shouted, and his Marines opened fire from 3 directions simultaneously, targeting the joints in the Vorn's armor, a weakness they had discovered in previous engagements. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human soldiers demonstrated remarkable resilience. An observation post staffed by Craxian officers watched in disbelief as injured humans continued fighting effectively despite wounds that would have killed or immobilized warriors from other species. "How do they continue?" asked a junior Craxian officer, watching a human soldier apply a field dressing to a serious wound before returning to combat. The senior officer, who had fought alongside humans at Centauri Drift, replied simply, "It's what they do." In orbit, Captain Bell's risky maneuver had paid off. The Vorn dreadnought's engines flared and died under the Defender's precise attack. Throughout the battle zone, the tracking beacons planted during Operation Thunderstrike activated, allowing Concorde forces to target Vorn ships through the nebula's interference. The tide of battle was turning. For the first time since the war began, The Vorn were retreating. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Concord sparkled with light reflected from crystalline columns. Representatives from every member species gathered to celebrate their victory over the Vorn Empire. The war that had threatened the entire galaxy for nearly a year had finally ended. Sergeant Frank Miller stood uncomfortably in his dress uniform. His chest still ached from wounds received at the Battle of Orion Nebula, but he had refused medical regeneration until all his squad members had been treated. 3 new medals decorated his uniform, joining others from Earth conflicts before humanity reached the stars. "Still can't believe we're here," muttered Private Martinez beside him. "Remember when they wouldn't even let us near the front lines?" Frank nodded slightly. Things change. The massive doors at the end of the hall opened, and the Concord leadership entered. Alien diplomats and military commanders filed in, with Warlord Drax of the Craxians at their center. The enormous 4-armed warrior moved with ceremonial dignity to the speaker's platform. "We gather today to honor those who preserved our freedom," Drax began, his voice carrying throughout the hall. "The Vorn threat has been neutralized, but at great cost to all our peoples." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the assembled representatives until it rested on the human delegation. "When Earth joined our Concord," Drax continued, "many doubted the value of these small, soft-bodied creatures, including myself." A rumble of acknowledgement passed through the crowd. "We judged their worth by our own standards, and found them lacking." Captain Samantha Bell stood with Admiral Patterson and the other human officers. She had commanded the U.S. Defender through 12 major engagements, earning the respect of even the most skeptical alien commanders. "We were wrong," Drax stated simply. "The humans proved that physical might is not the only measure of a warrior. Their adaptability, endurance, and tactical innovation were decisive in our victory." The assembly hall filled with the various sounds of alien approval, clicks, hums, and rumbles that translated across species as applause. Drax raised all 4 of his arms for silence. "Today, I formally acknowledge the warrior spirit of humanity. Their courage and resilience have earned them an equal place among the greatest fighting forces of the Concord." What followed was unprecedented in Concord history. Warlord Drax, Supreme Commander of the mighty Craxian forces, placed his hand on his chest in the traditional salute of respect, a gesture previously reserved only for fellow Craxians. One by one, the military leaders of other species rose and offered their own gestures of respect toward the human delegation. Even the typically aloof Eridani lowered their ceremonial crests, something humans had never witnessed before. After the ceremony, Frank found himself approached by a young Craxian cadet. The alien, though young, still towered over the human sergeant. "Forgive my intrusion," the cadet said. "I am Mektor, 3rd son of Warlord Drax. I have been assigned to study human combat techniques." Frank raised an eyebrow. "That's a change from a year ago." Mektor's expression shifted in what Frank had learned to recognize as embarrassment. "My father has ordered the creation of an elite training program. Human instructors will teach selected warriors from all species." "Sounds like a good start," Frank replied. "I must ask," Mektor said hesitantly, "what is the secret? How do humans continue fighting despite injuries that would stop any other species?" Frank considered the question carefully. Around him, the celebration continued as humans and aliens mingled with a new sense of mutual respect. "It's not just one thing," he finally answered. "Throughout our history on Earth, humans have faced challenges that should have ended us. Predators, diseases, disasters, our own wars. Each time, we adapted and survived." He gestured toward Captain Bell, who was examining a holographic battle plan with Eridani commanders. "We're smaller than Craxians, slower than Eridani, less armored than Vorn, but we learned to use those limitations as strengths. When you can't overpower an obstacle, you find another way." The young Craxian considered this with obvious fascination. "My father says humanity will play a greater role in Concord defense planning." Frank nodded. "The galaxy's a dangerous place. We're better facing it together, each contributing our strengths." As the celebration continued into the night, The once dismissed humans moved among their alien allies not as curiosities or lesser beings, but as equals. Earth ships now patrolled sectors previously closed to them. Human tactical advisors were being requested by species that had once mocked their fragility.